This happened to me a couple of years ago. I was in an extremely unhealthy relationship at the time, and after one of my partner's fits of rage, I went out for a night drive to clear my head. I was 22 years old at the time, living in a small town in rural Alberta. Now, if you know anything about Alberta, you know that a lot of the residents here are redneck types with huge jacked up trucks sporting massive aftermarket bumpers and headlights that can probably see clear to Mars. Now, I'm not a tiny girl. I grew up training in MMA, and I'm damn near 6 feet tall. But I drive a tiny silver sedan, so me and my tiny car made our way out to the local fishing pond. It's also a bit of the lover's lane, but it was pretty much deserted at this time aside from one other car in the parking lot. I pull in, hugging tight to the curb to put as much space as I can between myself and the other occupant of the lot. There's a chain guardrail type thing to the immediate right of my car as well as in front of me. But I wanted to keep my splotchy face to myself while I text my best friend about the fight I'd just had with my partner. As I'm sitting in my car, doors locked and ignition off, I see a vehicle coming down the road. It's important to know that this parking lot is at the top of a T intersection, and there's not much to do in my hometown other than drive around aimlessly, so I didn't think much of it. That is until the vehicle pulled in behind and slightly to the left of me, blocking my vehicle in. I was still upset and borderline ready to end myself anyway, so although it freaked me out, I didn't do anything about it. I just stayed in my car, doors locked, texting my friend. After about 20 minutes of this, what I could now tell was a massive truck with an iron cross bumper sitting behind me with his damn lights from hell shining into my car. They then drove off. I paid no more thought to them. Once I felt calm enough to go back home, I started my car and went to put it in reverse. Remember how I told you that the lot I was in was at the top of a T intersection? Well, all of a sudden these lights come on from just up the road behind me. I pull onto the shitty gravel road and start making my way back towards town, and then the truck followed. I drove slowly and calmly, and they got so close behind me that they nearly clipped my car with their bumper, and they kept backing off and pulling in close again like a cat playing with a mouse. I completely ignored them and continued to drive normally until I made it to the turn into town, where they decided to finally go into the other direction. I've never felt that kind of fear before or since, not really sure what was going on or what their intentions were. I've never really thought about this in the last 10 to 15 years, but I think I narrowly escaped being raped or murdered as a kid. When I was a preteen growing up in rural Texas, a family from Las Vegas moved next door to us. It was Harry, his wife, her mother, 2 daughters, and one of their husbands. I was drawn to them because they were very friendly and interesting, all except Harry. It didn't take long to figure out that everyone in the family hated him. He gave off a real dirtbag vibe. The family had money, but it only came from his wife's side of the family. He didn't really fit in with the rest of them. Over a year or so, I spent more and more time over there, but avoided Harry like the plague. Talking to his stepdaughters, I learned that their mother was getting ready to divorce him. I think he had seen the writing on the wall as well. One day, out of the blue, he stopped over my house. I was outside riding my bike or something. He asked me if I wanted to take a ride with him to go check on their cattle. For some stupid reason, I forgot all of my misgivings about him. I thought it would be cool to take a ride with him out in the country to check out our livestock. My mother was inside talking to her friend on the phone. I'll never forget how she reacted when I asked her if I can go with him. Without interrupting her conversation, she mouthed no and shook her head to reiterate the point. She told me to just go out to the front door and shake my head rather than going outside and telling him I wasn't going. Harry just shrugged and left. After his wife kicked him out, Harry started harassing them in weird ways, creeping outside of their house at night, and even calling in fake obituaries for one of the daughters into the local newspaper. Thankfully, he took off back to Vegas soon after. After I had my own kids, I started thinking about that incident and what could have happened to me that day if my mother hadn't had the foresight to tell me I couldn't go. I think Harry would have hurt me just to get back at his family members who had a fondness for me. It's really chilling to think about. I'm a 23-year-old female, and at this time this happened, I was 19 and homeless in a big city. I just recently moved out to that city and was on my way back to the shelter from the public library, which is my favorite place to hang out during the day. I was taking a shortcut through an alley wide enough for a car to go through, and I noticed an old beat-up looking car come into the alley and driving slowly behind me. I figured they probably just didn't feel like they had enough room to pass me, so I picked up the pace and crossed the street. They drove onto the same side of the street that I was on and kept pace with me. There was just one guy in a vehicle that looked to be in his mid-20s and Hispanic. He rolled down his window and said, "Hey, are you okay? How old are you?" I looked like I was about 14, and I'm pretty short, so I got that question a lot. I just responded, "I'm fine. I'm not a minor if that's what you're asking." He asked me if I needed a ride, and I politely declined. Then he starts telling me he's just really concerned and wanted to talk, really insistently, and smiling throughout the whole entire interaction. It was very off-putting how much he was smiling. I asked him why couldn't we just talk on the street where we were, and he dodges the question and again asks if I'm sure that I don't want to ride. My gut was telling me he had bad intentions, and if I were as young as I looked, I might have fallen for it. Instead, I looked around me to make sure I wasn't going to get ambushed and walked up to his passenger window. I told him in the most threatening voice I could muster, "I know you don't really want to talk. I'm sure you have worse things in mind." I paused to take another look around and continued, "And I memorized your license plate. I'm going straight to the police station. I better not ever see you again." I never saw him again. Unfortunately, though, I forgot to write down his plates. And the curfew for the shelter was going into effect soon, so I didn't have enough time to file a police report. It didn't occur to me to call the non-emergency number. I also purchased a large knife, so that way I can legally defend myself. My mom is from Canada, and my family would visit her small rural hometown every summer growing up. It was a type of place where everyone knew each other and were loosely related. One day, my sister and I were going for a walk, and a man whom we never seen before biked up to us and asked if we were sisters. He told us that he knew our aunt, which he could have easily made up, and that he lived down the street from her. Then he asked to come over to his house. We declined and went home and told our parents. A few weeks later, his mugshot was on the front page of the newspaper because he kidnapped and raped a 5-year-old girl. His situation was so creepy because it could have been us. Good evening, everyone. This is Yuri K, and this is the end of the video. Please leave a comment and let us know your opinions on the matter. If you happen to like this content, please check out our other videos. Make sure you like and share amongst your friends and family to help our community grow. You happen to be new to this channel? Please make sure you subscribe. It's free and you can always change it in the future. You have some terrifying story suggestions? If so, make sure that you send it to my email, fearofthedarkstories@gmail.com, and I'll feature it in a future segment. But you guys stay safe out there, and remember to always be afraid of the dark.